right, everyone, welcome back to the Crypto Market Rundown, where we talk about everything that's happening in the great world of cryptocurrency, from the fundamentals in the news to the technicals on the charts. We spend the time doing hours of research so that you all don't have to. And here we are, TiVo. The entire crypto market is pushing higher, and there is literally just so much going on in the markets today. We have a lot of things that we want to talk about. The ETF front is absolutely crushing it. We're seeing just record levels of trading volume, record levels of inflows. We're seeing Bitcoin options get approved. You look at this from just about any front you can. I mean, there's also this massive acquisition that happened with Stripe wanting to get in on the crypto space. And for people who aren't familiar, I mean, Stripe is a massive payment solution and payment provider, and they're used by businesses across the world. They're gigantic, and they made this more than $1 billion acquisition so that they can enter into the crypto markets. We're going to be talking about all this and a whole bunch more, because what we're seeing is that Bitcoin is recontesting the highs and altcoins are doing fantastic. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. We want to make sure that we cover everything that's going on so that all of you can be as up to date and informed as possible. And of course, talk about the impact that this could have as we head into the final quarter of this year here. So TiVo, does that get you stoked? Are you excited?
Dude, so stoked. And I'll tell you why. Because we met yesterday and went over it this morning again, our rundown of our sheet. And dude, for the first time, and it feels like forever, and we're only going to mention this once, we won't mention it again for the rest of the podcast. No politics are on the agenda, which is fascinating. Because
let's go.
2 weeks from today, we'll know the outcome, and obviously that's going to have some implications, and we'll break that down and talk about it when it happens. But just an overview of what Brendan just said. The summary is there is so much excitement happening in the crypto space. There's so much excitement around Bitcoin, and we're here to talk about it. And I'm jazzed for this episode right now, because we couldn't even believe it. We had to cut some stuff out. We just kept copy and paste in our notes and stuff that we saw during the week. So let's jump right into it, because it's definitely an action-packed crypto focus episode.
Yeah, I mean, let's kick things off with prices, all right? I mean, let's look at the charts, see how the money is being made, and I think the best way to do that is to actually take a look at what's happening over here in Bitcoin first. So we're going to show the prices, we're going to show the gains, we're going to show what's hot, and what everyone should be paying attention to. And then we want to talk about the catalysts that are causing all of these moves in the background, right? These kind of big fundamental events, these news-driven events that are happening behind the scenes that are causing prices to appreciate in the way that they are. So let's take a look at Bitcoin first here, shall we? Because what we saw here over the course of really almost the last 2 weeks was Bitcoin appreciating from around 58K all the way up to around 70K. Now, this is a really big move, because what this means is that Bitcoin saw new multi-month highs. This is the highest level that we have seen Bitcoin since July of this year. And kind of the bigger picture that this paints is that Bitcoin is pivoting away from this downtrend. And we've talked about this a million times on these crypto market rundowns, saying Bitcoin has been slowly trending downwards inside of this falling channel from a high to a lower low to a lower high to a lower low, lower high, lower low, so on and so forth, right? I mean, we've been doing this for almost 6-7 months now. Well, what we've seen in the past almost 2 months is that really since August, Bitcoin pivoted from this low to a higher high, to a higher low, to a higher high, and we've started trending upwards instead of trending downwards. And this seems to be the deviation that the crypto market needs, because Bitcoin is now putting a lot of pressure into its primary resistance level of right around the low $70,000 range. And this is one that Bitcoin has tested a lot. I mean, we could just look at the charts. You don't have to be any kind of TAA guru to look at this and say, hey, Bitcoin has tested the $70,000 level quite a few times this year, and it has been unable to break above it. So when we're looking at this level, we can see that Bitcoin has rejected 70K and fell down to 60K. And it's done it again and again and again, with sometimes falling even lower to maybe the $50,000 bottom end of the spectrum. So this is a massive level for Bitcoin. I think all eyes need to be watching here. And the cool thing is that if you can't tell already, we're net bullish. We're really optimistic about where the market is. We're not saying that it's all going to be sunshine and rainbows, right? There's a lot of people out there that are saying new all-time highs by the end of this week, 100K by the end of this year. We're bullish, right? We think that the market will continue to trend upwards, but as Tivo said, it's election season. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of choppy price action. But the big takeaway that we're looking at this with is that, hey, we are optimistic about where the space goes. If we fall a little bit further, maybe to the lower end of 60s, it's okay. The general trend here is looking up, and it looks like Bitcoin wants to recontest the all-time highs. And with this, there's a lot of other cryptos that are doing pretty good, honestly. I mean, you look at something like Solana breaking to the upside of an ascending triangle. New multi-month highs for Solana, the highest level that it has seen since July of this year as well. In recent weeks, we've talked about Sui hitting a new all-time high. We've talked about Mantra hitting another new all-time high. Now they're pulling back a little bit. You can look at BNB, which is pushing to the top of an ascending triangle. We can look at a few of these other projects. Radium just skyrocketing here in recent weeks. Going, I mean, what was this move? I think it's up 71% in the last 2 weeks or something like that. And so there's been a lot of projects out there. You know, Aerodrome was another one, the highest level that Aerodrome has seen since April of this year when the whole crypto market was going crazy to the upside. And so altcoins are warming up. And the cool thing is, I don't think that we are even fully in max crypto season yet. I mean, Bitcoin dominance is still high, the DXY or the Dixie is still high, and the crypto markets are still looking great. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity still out there. And, you know, again, one of the big catalysts that has kind of been propelling us forward is the state of these Bitcoin ETFs. And what we've seen over here is that they had just been wildly successful. And in recent weeks, we're going to show the inflows in just a second here. But in recent weeks, we have seen them see just over $1 billion in inflow. I think now it's pushing billions of dollars in inflows over the last week or two. But this tweet puts it really, really well. And I'm going to zoom in on this just a tad bit. But it took gold and the gold ETFs 5 years to break $20 billion in inflows. Now, Bitcoin, on the other hand, was able to do this in just 10 months. Again, this makes it one of the most successful ETF launches in history, arguably the most successful ETF launch in history. And you can see over here on the chart what gold did in the first year versus what Bitcoin did in its first year of inflows. Now, granted, right, it's a little bit of a different time and place. When the gold ETFs launched, wasn't truly the market that we're in today. So it's not a perfect comparison. However, I think no matter what way you look at it, Bitcoin, again, is just outpacing all of its potential competitors. And there was an article done the other day, Tivo, that was saying, and maybe actually you can find it, but it was saying that Bitcoin is growing at a faster rate than the internet did in its early days, in its stages of adoption. Bitcoin is growing at a significantly faster rate than even the internet. So, right, I don't want to always compare apples to apples and apples to oranges, but if we look at this compared to gold and the gold ETFs, it's faster. If we look at this as comparison against the growth of the internet, it's faster there. We look at it in comparison to growth and return potential of the traditional markets. We say, what is the annualized return rate of Bitcoin? What is the annualized return rate of gold, NASDAQ, S&P, you name it? It still comes out on top. And the big thing that we're heating up to right now is if we actually go and look at these inflows, which is what I want to show everyone here, we have seen a ridiculous, and I mean absolutely ridiculous amount of inflows pouring into Bitcoin here. And what you'll see on the bottom here, that there's almost no outflows, especially not last week. But even over the last month or so, very little outflows. There's one day of 283 million in outflows, but that has been dwarfed by all these days of inflows. I mean, here's a day of almost 500 million in inflows. Just recently, last week, we saw a day of 550 million in inflows, 371 million, 460 million, 470 million, 273 million. Even yesterday, we saw Monday, $335 million in inflows to these Bitcoin ETFs. And what this means is that institution and retail traders alike, they are pouring money into these, which leads us to our